Hi guys, this is Vineet and I welcome you to this video. Today's video topic is database properties. This is part 3 of this series. I hope you have watched earlier two parts of this video series. If not, please go ahead and do so before watching this part. So today's topic is database properties. Guys, if you are new to this channel or if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do so. There is a subscribe button below this video. Click on that subscribe button. It will give you a bell icon. Click on the bell icon, select all notifications to get notifications regarding all my future videos. Let me give you 5 seconds to do so. Please go ahead and subscribe right away. So, alright guys, I hope you have subscribed by now. Let's move ahead. There are some points to remember while watching this video. Please watch this video till the end to gain better clarity of the concept, and if it's possible for you, please watch this video twice or as many times as you like until the concepts get clear to you. Perform any exercises in your test and lab environments only. Do not touch any production environments or production databases. And the last point is that we would like to know your thoughts regarding our videos, so please share your comments, feedback, suggestions, any reviews, any day-to-day experiences with SQL Server. You may let us know about any of the situations where my content has helped you somewhere in some way. I have created some playlists for you to watch. Links for all these playlists are available in the video description area. Uh, the link to my channel page is also available in the video description area, which is given at the bottom of this slide. Some of the playlists that I have created are SQL Server database design, tables, business continuity, indexing, performance tuning, integration services, and transact SQL playlists. These are some of my major playlists. And apart from that, we have a separate playlist on Python, which is a Python programming workshop. So if you are interested in Python, you can watch out videos in that particular playlist. And guys, why do we create playlist? Because we think that playlists are best way to learn about any particular area. So for example, if you want to learn about the database design area, what we would recommend is to go to the database design playlist and watch out all the videos from beginning till the end. And this video also belongs to the database design category. So we basically categorizes our video as per the domain area. So this one contributes to the database design area. So let's continue with this video, guys. So today's topic is database properties. Let me take you to notes and finally to SQL Server. Earlier we had talked about some of the miscellaneous properties of SQL Server, the miscellaneous properties, the file stream properties, and apart from that we also talked about some of the database scoped configurations in our earlier video. Now in today's video, what we will cover is we will cover the recovery properties. So let's connect to the default instance of SQL Server. So let's select the properties of the database. In my case, I'm using the AdventureWorks database, going to the properties. So I'm inside the properties window for AdventureWorks database, and let's go to the options section. Under that, we had covered all the sections. We have covered automatic, containment, cursor, database scope configuration, file stream, ledger. We have also covered the miscellaneous options in our previous video, so please check that out. Okay guys, let's talk about the recovery options. So first option is the page verify option, and this option is basically used to discover and report incomplete IO transactions caused by disk IO errors. And possible values for this setting is there are three settings available: none, torn page detection, and the checksum. These three options are available for this setting, page verify. And this setting is basically used to discover and report incomplete IO transaction caused by the disk IO error. And these are the three methods to discover: the checksum, torn page detection, and none. In none, it will not verify and report any disk IO error based incomplete IO transactions. So right now the checksum is configured. We will talk more about this option in our upcoming videos, so stay tuned and keep subscribed to our channel. Here I am discussing this option briefly. So the main purpose of this option, page verify, is to discover and report any incomplete IO transactions caused by disk IO errors. That is the purpose of this setting. Now the next setting is target recovery time in seconds. So which is mentioned as 0 right now. And basically this setting specifies the maximum bound on the time expressed in seconds to recover the specified database in the event of a crash. Alright, so we can configure some time option over here in the seconds, and which basically specifies the maximum bound on the time, and this is expressed in seconds to recover a specific database in event of crash. Now we are done with the recovery options, so let me move on to the service broker options. So under service broker, the first option available is broker enabled, and basically this enables or disables the service broker. So right now it is set to false, so service broker is disabled for this particular database. And the next option is read only, as it is grayed out. So next option is honor broker priority. I think these settings get enabled when we select the first setting to true. No, they are still not getting enabled, or maybe after clicking OK they get enabled. Let me quickly check. So if I go to properties again and go to the options area and go to the recovery section, the service broker section, we see that broker enabled is true. Let me set it to false. Let's discuss about the honor broker priority. So basically this is a read only service broker property which is currently set to false. And the last option under the service broker category is service broker identifier, and which is basically a GUID, and it's also a read-only property. Read-only identifier is given over here. We will talk about details on these service broker properties later on, so please stay in tune with us for our upcoming videos. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so. Now let's move on to next section, which is the state section. And the first property here is database read-only, which is set to false. And if we set it to true, I think it makes the database read-only. So this property basically specifies whether the database is read-only or not, and possible values for this setting are true and false. And when it is set to true, right now it is set to false, but if it is set to true, users can only read data in the database. They cannot write to any of the tables. They cannot insert any rows in the table. So if this setting is set to true, users can only read data in the database, and user cannot modify the data or database objects. However, the database itself can be deleted. We cannot insert data into the database, but database itself can be deleted using the drop database statement, and the database cannot be in use when new value for the database read-only option is specified. So the prior prerequisites to setting this particular value for database read-only to true is that the this database should not be getting used in the background. Otherwise, we will not be able to set this property. So we must ensure that database cannot be used when we are setting the value for this database read-only property. The master database is an exception, and only the system administrator can use master while the option is being set. This is done. The database read-only property is done. Let's move on to next property, which is database state. The state currently showing is normal auto closed, and basically this property is used to view the current status of the database or current state of the database, and this property is not editable. And we will talk about, I think we had already talked about database states. If not, we will cover them later. So please check out if we have already videos present on database states. If not, do let us know, we will create some for you. Alright, so let's move on to next option, which is encryption enabled, and which is currently set to false. So encryption is not enabled on this database. So when this setting is set to true, this database gets enabled for database encryption. Alright, so if this property is set to true, the database is enabled for database encryption, and a database encryption key is required for encryption. So the only option available are true and false. If we set it to true, we need a database encryption key that is required for the encryption. Guys, we will soon create videos on the transparent data encryption, which is TDE. Stay in touch with us. If you have not subscribed, please go ahead and do so. Alright, let's move on to next setting. Here I am discussing all the settings briefly. I am not digging deeper into each setting, but yeah, later on eventually we will elaborate on each and every setting. So last option is restrict access, and the option available are how this database access is restricted, Currently, the database is set to multi-user access. So multiple users can log into this database, and we can make this database available to single user only by selecting the second option, single user. And we can also restrict it to be used by a particular user. So let's set it back to multi-user. Let me discuss each of these options in detail. So basically this restrict access option specifies which users may access the database, and possible values are multiple, single and restricted. Multiple is the normal state for the production database, and it allows multiple users to access the database at once. And the single user option can be selected. This option is selected basically for the maintenance actions. During the maintenance time, we want only one user to gain access to a database, not all the users. So if we want to take the database into the maintenance mode, yeah, it's better if you can put the database in single user mode instead of multi-user mode, so that only one user is allowed to connect to the database, probably the system administrator. And the last option is the restricted user access, and only the members of, if you select the restricted user access, only the members of the DB owner, DB creator or sysadmin roles can use the database if you select the third option. So guys, alright, we are done with the option settings available over here, and let's move on to the next section, which is change tracking in the database properties. So we are on the change tracking page currently, which is the part of database properties, and basically we use this page to view or modify the change tracking settings for the selected database. Alright, let's move on. So what are all options available over here? Let's see. So we have the first option available is change tracking, which is basically set to false for this database. So change tracking is not enabled on this database, and basically this change tracking option is used to enable or disable the change tracking for the database. And to enable the change tracking, you must have permission to modify the database, otherwise you won't be able to change the setting. And setting the value to true basically sets a database option that allows change tracking to be enabled on individual tables. Basically, if we turn on the change tracking for a particular database, it allows us to do change tracking on particular tables. So on individual tables, change tracking can be enabled if this database change tracking option is set to true. And change tracking can also be enabled using the alter database statement as well. Now let's talk about the next setting, which is the retention period, which basically specifies the minimum period for keeping change track information. Right now it is set to 2 days. So it specifies the minimum period for keeping the change track information in the database, and data is removed only if the auto cleanup value is set to true. So we are talking about the 4 option. The change tracking data will get deleted after 2 days if this option auto cleanup is set to true, otherwise it won't get deleted automatically. And the default value for the retention period is 2. Now let's talk about the retention period unit, which is set to days. So the retention period is 2 days, and we can set it to 2 hours 2 minutes as well. So this is what we meant by the retention period units. So retention period unit basically specifies the units for the retention period value, and we can select days, hours or minutes, and the default value is in days. And the minimum retention period is 1 minute, nothing below that. So minimum retention period we can set as 1 minute, and there is no maximum retention period. We can set any number of days for the maximum retention period. And the last setting is auto cleanup, and which basically indicates whether change tracking information is automatically removed after a specified retention period. And enabling the auto cleanup resets any previous custom retention periods to the default retention period of 2 days. So alright guys, we are done with this section as well. Let me turn off the change tracking. We don't want to enable it. And similarly for options, I don't know, the database is still set to multi-user. So we are done with the change tracking options as well. Let's not talk about permissions right now. We will cover the permissions area under the security videos when we create the videos on the security section. Let me talk about the extended properties. So this page basically lists some of the, if we talk about this grid particularly, it shows us some extended properties name, which is the name of the extended property being viewed or set, and we see the value for that particular property. For there's an additional property created, which is MS description, and The description here given is AdventureWorks 2016 sample OLTP database. So this is the property value. Basically, if we talk about the extended properties allow you to add custom properties to database objects. So this is one of the custom properties added in here. So extended properties allows you to add custom properties to database objects and use this page to view or modify extended properties for the selected object. The extended property page is the same for all type of database object. Now, if we talk about the UI element list, the first one is the database, which indicates displays the name of the selected database, and this field is read only. If we talk about the next field, which is collation, it displays the collation used for the selected database, and this field is also read only. Now if we talk about the properties section, which basically shows us a grid. So properties section basically view or specify the extended properties for the object. Each extended property consists of a name value pair of metadata associated with the object. So this is a name value pair, and right next to it there is an ellipsis button, and if we click on that, it allows us to modify that extended property for this database. We can change the description over here for MS description area. We can add additional properties by typing their name and typing their values over here, and similarly we can also delete any of the extended properties by using this delete button. So this is what extended properties are. Now let's go to the mirroring section. Okay guys, let's discuss on the mirroring options briefly over here. So we are on the mirroring page on the database properties window. Basically we access this page from the principal database, which is the main database. This page can be used to configure and modify the properties of database mirroring for a database, and also use it to launch the configure database mirroring security visit to view the status of a mirroring session, and to basically pause or remove the database mirroring session. You can do it from here. And basically security must be configured before you can start mirroring, so we have a configure security button over here. Security must be configured first before you can start the mirroring process, and if mirroring has not been started, you must begin by using the security visit. The mirroring page text boxes are disabled for now. All the other text boxes are disabled for now. Until we complete this security visit, all these boxes will remain grayed out and we cannot modify any of the boxes here. Now configure database mirroring by using the SQL Server Management Studio. We will cover a separate video on that, in which we will show you how to establish a database mirroring session using the Windows authentication inside SQL Server Management Studio. For now I'm just discussing some options briefly over here. So let's go into configure security. So basically we use this button to launch the configure database security mirroring security visit. Let me repeat. So we use this button to launch the configure database mirroring security visit. Right now it's giving us error. The database cannot be mirrored because it does not use the full recovery model. Alright, so for database to use this mirroring wizard, it needs to use the full recovery model. So where we can set that, this can be set in the option section. So we have a recovery model section. So right now it's set to simple. Let's set it to full. Let's click OK. After that we will be able to launch the configure security visit. Okay guys, let's go to properties again and go to the mirroring section on the left hand side. Now we have set the recovery model of the database to full recovery model. Now I think we should be able to launch the configure security visit, database mirroring security visit. So let's click on that. So this wizard is open now, and basically if this wizard completes successfully, the action taken depends upon whether the mirroring has already begun, as follows. This wizard is basically, let's read about this wizard. This wizard will help you configure the security setting for the mirroring database MyAdventureWorks, and you can use this wizard to configure security settings on the following servers: the principal server instance, the mirror server instance, the witness server instance. So guys, we don't want to set the mirroring right now. So let me cancel out this wizard and let me briefly discuss some of the other options on the page. We will create separate videos on mirroring. There I will show you how to properly configure the mirroring process, mirror database from one server to the other replica mirroring servers. Now let's talk about the server network address section. Basically the server network addresses of the server. There are three servers involved in the mirroring operation basically. There's a principal server, there's a mirroring server, and there is a witness server as well. So we have these three concepts. We will cover these concepts thoroughly in our upcoming videos on mirroring. So for now, just keep that in mind that for the mirroring process, we configure three servers, which are principal server, mirroring server, and the witness server. And we have server network addresses for each of these servers separately given over here. And the server network address of the server instances are specified automatically when you complete through the configure database mirror security wizard. And after completing this wizard, you can modify the network addresses manually over here. We can modify the network addresses manually via these text boxes if necessary. And the server network address has basically a syntax starting with TCP colon // fully qualified domain name and the port number for the principal mirror and witness servers. And fully qualified domain name is the server on which the server instance exists, and port is the port assigned to the database mirroring endpoint of the server instance. And to basically participate in database mirroring, server requires database mirroring endpoint. And when we use this configure database security mirroring wizard to establish the first mirroring session for the server instance, the wizard automatically creates the endpoint and configure it to use the Windows authentication. We will cover that in detail in our upcoming video where we will show you how you can establish a database mirroring session using the Windows authentication. So keep subscribed to us, and there's a subscribe button below this video. Use that button to subscribe. And basically each server instance require one and only one database mirroring endpoint. Regardless of the number of mirroring session to be supported, there should be only one database mirroring endpoint. And if we take an example for a server instance on a computer system name, maybe DB server, and this is the name DB server, whose endpoint uses the port 7022. Let me write that for you. So we are taking an example. For example, we are giving you an example for a TCP address, how it is configured, how it shows. So for example, a server instance, I am talking about the SQL Server instance on a computer system named DB server. Let's take DB server 7, let's take 7, whose endpoint uses port 7022. The network address will be, might be, we can say. So it starts with like that TCP / the name of the server, which is DB server 7 in our case, and then we give our domain name. Maybe it's abc.com is the domain name. I'm taking an example, and then the port is specified like this. So this is the one of the example of addresses that can be configured in the principal mirror and witness server addresses boxes. And once we go through the configure security wizard, it automatically populates this information into all these three boxes. And if we say during the database mirroring session, the principal and mirror server instances cannot be changed. So these principal and mirror server instances cannot be changed during a database mirroring session. The witness server instance, however, can be changed during a session. We'll talk about more on this with detail in our later videos. So if we take a look on the right hand side, there's a start mirroring button, and basically we click on that button to begin the mirroring process when all the following condition exist. So the first condition to start mirroring is that your mirror database must exist, and before you can start mirroring, the mirror database must have been created by restoring with no recovery a recent full backup, and perhaps log backups of the principal database onto the mirror server. We basically create a mirror server and we restore a full backup with no recovery onto that server to create that mirror server. So that mirror database must first exist before we can start mirroring. And the TCP addresses of the principal and mirror server instances must already be specified. This condition should be true, at least for principal and mirror databases in the server network addresses section. And make sure that your security has been configured correctly via the configure security wizard. And basically we click on the start mirroring button to initiate a session. The database engine attempts to automatically connect to the mirroring partner when we click on the start mirroring button. So database engine automatically connects to the mirroring partner to verify that the mirror server is correctly configured and begin the mirroring session after that. And if mirroring can be started, a job is created to monitor the database. Now there are options to and pause or resume. So this button is interchangeable. So when the pause button is clicked, it changes to a resume button, and when a resume button is clicked, it changes to a pause button. Basically this button is used to pause or resume the mirroring. So during a database mirroring session, click the pause button to pause the session. A prompt asks for confirmation, and if you click yes on that prompt, the session is paused and the button changes to resume button. To resume the session, click on the resume button, and again it will change to the pause button. Now the third button, if we talk about, is to remove the mirroring from this server instance. So on the principal server instance, if we are on this server, we can click on this button, remove mirroring. So on the principal server instance, click to stop the session and remove the mirroring configuration from the database. A prompt asks for confirmation. If you click yes, the session is stopped and mirroring is removed. Alright, basically we click this button to stop the session and remove the mirroring configuration from the database. And when we click this button, we get a prompt, and if we click on yes on that prompt, the session gets stopped and the mirroring gets removed. We will show you all this practically in our upcoming videos. And if this is the only mirrored database on the server instance, the monitor job is also removed. Now there is a button for failover as well. We click on this button to failover the principal database to the mirror database manually. So this is for manual failover. If we want to fail over the principal database to the mirror server manually. And basically if the mirroring session is running in a high performance mode, so which is the first mode under the operating mode, manual failover, which is using this button, is not supported. And to fail over manually, you must first change the operating mode to second option, which is high safety without automatic failover, synchronous. This option can be selected in order to support the manual failover for the principal database to the mirroring server. Now after failover completes, you can change the mode back to high performance. So for failover, manual failover, you need to change the mode, then you can change back the mode to its original option. When we click on the failover button, which is basically used to fail over the principal database to the mirror database manually, a prompt basically occurs to ask for confirmation, and if you click on yes on that prompt, failover is attempted, and the principal server begins by trying to connect to the mirror server by using the Windows authentication. And if Windows authentication does not work, the principal server displays the connect to server dialog box. And if the mirror server uses SQL Server authentication, select SQL Server authentication on that dialog box. In the authentication box, in the login text box, specify the login credentials or the login account to connect with one of the mirror servers, and specify the password as well to connect to that account on the mirror server. And if your failover succeed, the database properties dialog box closes automatically. The principal and mirror server roles are switched. Once you do a failover, your principal and mirror server roles get switched. The former mirror server becomes the principal database and vice versa. So they get interchanged. Note that the database properties dialog box becomes unavailable on the old principal database immediately because it has become the mirror database. So on the mirror database, this dialog box is not available. This dialog box is only available on the principal database server. So after you make a change using the failover, the dialog box will become available on the new principal database after the failover. And if your failover process fails, an error message gets displayed and the dialog box remains open. And basically if you click failover after modifying the properties in the database properties dialog box, those changes are lost. To save your current changes, answer no to the confirmation prompt and click OK to save your changes. Then reopen the database properties dialog box and click failover. Now let's talk about briefly about the operating modes. Basically, optionally we can change the operating modes, and the availability of certain operating modes depends upon whether you have a specified TCP IP address for the witness server here. Once this is specified, we can change the operating mode. The options available under the operating mode are as follows. So first option is high performance asynchronous. So witness is required. This can be kept null. If it exists, it does not get used, but the session requires a quorum. So guys, we will talk about these concepts. Maybe you're not familiar with these concepts, so we will cover a separate video on that. For now, just get a gist of what I'm saying. Don't get into very depth here. But here we are just specifying the properties, what you all things you can configure from here. So if you use the first mode, high performance asynchronous, it does not use the detail here in the witness box. And this mode is basically used to maximize the performance. The mirror database always lags somewhat behind the principal database in general. So mirror database is not always updated as the principal database is. So the mirror database always lags somewhat behind the principal database, never quite catching up. However, the gap between the databases is typically small. And the last of the partner has the following effect. If the mirror server instance become unavailable, the principal continues. If the principal server instance becomes unavailable, the mirror stops immediately. But if the session has no witness as recommended, all the witness is connected to the mirror server, the mirror server remains accessible as a warm standby. The database owner can force service to the mirror server instance with possible data loss during that time. Now the second option is high safety without automatic failover, and the witness information is not required over here. So basically in this mode, all committed transactions are granted to be written to disk on the mirror server if this option is selected. All the transactions are granted to be written to the disk on the mirror server, and a manual failover is possible under this option only using this button, failover button. This option should be selected for any manual failover, which is possible if the partners are connected to each other. The loss of the partner in these cases have following effects. If the mirror server instance becomes unavailable, the principal continues, and if the principal server becomes unavailable, the mirror server stops, but it is available as a warm standby. The database owner can force service to the mirror server whenever with a possible data loss. Third option is high safety with automatic failover synchronous operation, and in that case the witness information is required. And basically this provides the maximized availability by including a witness server as well. So it provides the maximum availability by including a witness server instance to support automatic failover. Note that you can select the high safety with automatic failover synchronous option only if you have first specified the witness server address over here. Alright, so witness server address need to be specified if you want to use the third option. And manual failover is possible. So under third option, manual failover is also possible whenever the partners are connected to each other. And there's an important note: if the witness becomes disconnected, so talking about the third server, which is a witness server, if the witness becomes disconnected, the partner must be connected to each other for a database to be available. So partners are principal and mirror servers. Those should be connected to each other for the database to be available in case we lost the witness server. Now in the synchronous operating modes, all committed transactions are guaranteed to be written to the disk on the mirror server. So all the transactions on the principal server are guaranteed to be written to the disk on the mirror server, and in the case of third mode, high safety with automatic failover synchronous mode. We are talking about all the synchronous modes. In the synchronous operating modes, all committed transactions are guaranteed to be written to the disk on the mirror server. In the presence of a witness, if the witness is present, the loss of the partner has the following effect. If the witness server information is available and we have lost either of the partners, we have the following effect. So if the principal server instance becomes unavailable, so if this one becomes unavailable, automatic failover occurs to the mirror server. The mirror server instance switches to the role of principal and it offers its database as the principal database. And if the mirror server instance become unavailable and if we have witness information available and if we are using the third mode, so if the mirror server instance become unavailable, the principal continues as is. So there would be no failover, but only in the case of principal server becomes unavailable, the automatic failover happens to the mirror server and mirror server becomes the principal server. Now after the mirroring process begins, you can change the operating mode and save changes by clicking the OK. So later on we can change these operating modes. Now there's a status box at the bottom of this window. So after your mirroring becomes, so right now it is saying that database has not been configured for the mirroring operation. After the mirroring begins, the status panel displays the status of the database mirroring session. And to update the status panel, we can click on this refresh button as well. And the possible states of the status panel can be the following. So let me discuss those states shortly. After that, we will wrap up this video. So let me continue quickly on that. So the first state is this database has not been configured for mirroring. So basically the explanation for this state is no database mirroring session exists and there is no activity to report on the mirroring page. The second option we get on this status is the paused option, which basically indicates that the principal database is available, but it is not sending any logs to the mirror server. Alright, so the next option available for the status data box is no connection. If we see no connection written over here, it indicates that principal server instance cannot connect to its partner. So if we see no connection over here, it means that principal cannot connect to the mirror server at that time. If the status is showing synchronizing, it means that the contents of the mirror database are lagging behind the contents of the principal database. So if the status is synchronizing, the content of the mirror database are lagging behind the contents of the principal database. The principal server instance is sending log records to the mirror server instance during the synchronizing operation. So during the synchronization operation, the principal server instance is sending logs to the log records to the mirror server instance, and which is basically applying the changes to the mirror database to roll it forward. At the start of the database mirroring section, the mirror and principal database are in this state, the synchronizing state. Type of status message is the failover message. We sometimes see failover written over here, which basically indicates on the principal server instance a manual failover role switching has begun and the server is currently transitioning into the mirror role. We talk about the principal server instance, and if we see in the status box showing failover, it basically indicates on the principal server instance a manual failover or a role switching is occurring and the server is currently transitioning from a principal server into a mirror role. And in this state, user connections to the principal database are terminated quickly and the database takes over the mirror role soon thereafter. Next status message that we can see is synchronized. And we get this message when the mirror server becomes sufficiently caught up to the principal server or has same data as principal server. We get the when we see the synchronized state, that indicates when the mirror server becomes sufficiently caught up to the principal server, the database state changes to synchronize. The database remains in this state as long as the principal server continues to send changes to the mirror server and the mirror server continues to apply their changes to the mirror database. And for a high safety mode, the second mode, right, failover is possible. So this failover is possible in this high safety mode without any data loss. And for high performance mode, some data loss is always possible even in the synchronized state as well. And basically we have a refresh button to refresh this box. Now let's talk about adding a witness to the existing session that is going on. Witness server can be added later on as well. So you can add a witness to an existing session or replace an existing witness as well. If you know the server network address of the witness server, you can mention it here. You can enter it into the witness field manually. And if you do not know the server network address of the witness, use the configure database mirroring security wizard to configure the witness server. And after the address is in this particular field, make sure that the high safety with automatic failover option is selected in case we are using the witness server. And after we configure a new witness here, you must click OK to add it to a mirroring session. And we will shortly create a video on how to add or replace database mirroring witness. So stay in tune. If you have not subscribed, please go ahead and do so. I'm reiterating that multiple times, guys. Otherwise, you will miss up on many of the videos, many of the upcoming videos as well. Now, how to remove a witness? To basically remove a witness server, deletes its server network address from the witness field. If you switch from high safety mode with automatic failover, which is the third mode, to a high performance mode, the witness field is automatically gets cleared. So if we change from the third mode to the first mode, the witness server field automatically gets cleared. And after deleting the witness, you must click OK to remove it from the mirroring session. Now let's talk a little bit about monitoring the database mirroring. And to monitor the mirrored databases on the server instance, you can use either the database mirroring monitor or use the SPDB monitor results system stored procedure. So we will shortly create videos on how you can use the database mirroring monitor in the SQL Server Management Studio and how you can use the SPDB. So the stored procedure name is SP underscore DBM monitor results is the stored procedure which can be used to monitor the mirroring session or mirroring database. So guys, we are done on this section, the mirroring section. In our next part of this video, which is database properties, what we will cover is we will cover the transaction log shipping page. So stay in tune with us and we will cover that, and last will be the query store page that we will cover soon. After that, we will be done with our database properties section. So this is the third part of this video. So I hope this video series will wrap up in 4 parts, the database properties series. So guys, I hope you liked this video. If you really like this video, please click on the like button below this video. And guys, if you are new to this channel and if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do so. There's a subscribe button below this video. Click on that subscribe button. It will show you a bell icon. Click on that bell icon, select all notifications to get notifications regarding all my future videos. Do post in your comments, guys. Any comments, feedback, suggestion, reviews, any day-to-day experiences with SQL Server. You may let us know about the situations where my content has helped you somewhere in some way. And do mention about that. We eagerly wait for your comments and would love to read the same. Also, guys, if you have a good network of friends who are also working in SQL Server domain, please share my videos with them as well and ask them to join my channel. I need this help from your end, so I hope you would help me in this. I thank you so much for your time once again on this video today, and you have a wonderful day ahead, guys. Thank you.